The Valerith were a proud species, their civilization spanning thousands of star systems and centuries of technological advancement. They had long since mastered the art of space travel, creating an empire that stretched across galaxies. To them, the universe was a quiet place, silent except for the hum of their advanced machinery and the occasional distant signal from lesser beings who dared to reach beyond their homeworlds. Their warships, sleek and ominous, patrolled the borders of their territory like silent sentinels. Equipped with sensors so sensitive they could detect even the faintest ripple in spacetime, these vessels served as both guardians and explorers. For millennia, no one had challenged the Valerith's dominance. Lesser civilizations either submitted willingly or crumbled under their superior firepower. Humanity, however, wasn't on their radar, at least not yet. Out on the fringes of uncharted space, near a dying star whose light flickered like a candle in the wind, something unusual caught the attention of Captain Zrin of the Zalkor, one of the most advanced ships in the Valerith fleet. His crew monitored the endless expanse of stars through shimmering holographic displays, but this time the readings were different. A cluster of objects appeared at the edge of their sensor range, objects moving faster than anything they'd ever encountered before. "What is this?" Zrin asked aloud, his voice calm but tinged with curiosity. He leaned forward in his command chair, his elongated fingers tapping against the smooth surface of the control panel. "Magnify and analyze." The ship's artificial intelligence hummed softly before responding. "Unknown vessels detected. Speed exceeds standard capabilities by 47%. Composition inconclusive. Energy signatures inconsistent with known technology." Zrynen frowned. Inconsistent? That was impossible. The Valerith prided themselves on cataloging every form of life and technology within their domain. Yet here was something entirely alien and alarmingly fast. "Are they hostile?" he asked sharply. "No weapons detected," replied the AI. "However, trajectory suggests intent to intersect our position." "Intent?" The word unsettled Zrin. It implied purpose, intelligence qualities he hadn't expected from whatever primitive race might be lurking out here. Still, it was laughable to think such beings could pose any real threat. After all, humanity, if these creatures were indeed human, had only recently clawed its way off its own planet. What chance did they stand against the mighty Valerith? As the unknown ships drew closer, Zrin ordered his crew to prepare for contact. But when the first visual scan came through, confusion rippled across the bridge. These weren't crude metal hulks cobbled together by inexperienced hands. Instead, the vessels gleamed with polished surfaces and intricate designs unlike anything the Valerith had ever seen. Each ship seemed to pulse faintly, as though alive, radiating energy that defied explanation. "This can't be right," muttered Lieutenant Kale, one of Zrin's top engineers. "These designs, they're too elegant, too precise." "And, unfamiliar?" added another officer. "We've never encountered anything like it." Before Zrin could respond, the sensors began behaving erratically. Readings fluctuated wildly, then vanished altogether. The once clear images of the approaching ships dissolved into static, leaving the crew staring at blank screens. Alarms blared throughout the ship, piercing the silence with sharp urgency. "What just happened?" demanded Zrin, rising from his seat. "Report?" "Our systems are failing," shouted Kale, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "It's like they're jamming us, but how?" For the first time in centuries, fear crept into the hearts of the Valerith. Their flawless technology, their unshakable confidence, it was unraveling before their eyes. And then, without warning, the mysterious ships vanished from their scanners completely. Silence fell over the bridge. Every member of the crew turned to look at Zrin, waiting for guidance. But even he couldn't hide the unease etched onto his face. What were these beings? And why had they disappeared so suddenly? Just as the tension reached its peak, a single message appeared on the main display screen. Written in perfect galactic standard, the universal language used across countless species, it read, ***, you underestimated us? ***, then everything went dark. The bridge of the Zalkor was eerily quiet after the mysterious message disappeared. The Valerith crew exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence shaken by the sudden intrusion into their carefully ordered world. Captain Zrin stood frozen for a moment, his mind racing to make sense of what had just happened. Humanity primitive? Insignificant humanity had somehow managed to outwit them. It defied logic. Restore power, Zrin barked finally, breaking the silence. His voice carried authority but betrayed an undercurrent of frustration. Begin diagnostics immediately. Lieutenant Kale and the engineering team scrambled to comply, their tentacles moving with practiced precision over glowing control panels. But no matter what they tried, the ship's systems remained sluggish, as though weighed down by some invisible force. Even basic functions like navigation and communication were disrupted. For a species that prided itself on technological superiority, this failure felt like a slap in the face. Meanwhile, far away from the chaos aboard the Zalkor, aboard one of the sleek human vessels known as the Eclipse Dawn, Commander Elena Vasquez watched the unfolding events with a mixture of satisfaction and caution. Her dark eyes scanned the holographic display before her, showing real-time data streaming in from the alien warship. She leaned back in her chair, tapping her fingers rhythmically against the armrest. That should keep them busy for a while, she said with a faint smile, addressing her second-in-command. Lieutenant Marcus Halle, their sensors are fried, and their propulsion is running at half capacity. They won't be going anywhere soon. Halle nodded, his expression thoughtful. Do you think they'll try to retaliate? They might, Elena replied, her tone calm but firm. But we've already proven something important. They're not invincible. If anything, they're predictable. Predictable wasn't how anyone would have described humanity up until now. Decades of struggle and innovation had taught humans to adapt quickly to any situation, whether it was surviving natural disasters on Earth or navigating the dangers of deep space. When reports first came in about strange alien activity near the edge of human-claimed territory, Elena knew it wouldn't be enough to simply observe. Humanity needed to act and act decisively. The plan had been simple yet daring. Using experimental technology developed by Earth's top scientists, the Eclipse Dawn, and its accompanying fleet deployed a series of electromagnetic pulses designed to temporarily disable the aliens' advanced systems without causing permanent damage. It was a calculated risk, meant to send a clear message. Humanity was neither weak nor afraid. Back on the Zalkor, Captain Zrin wrestled with conflicting emotions. On one hand, he wanted to retaliate immediately, to unleash the full might of his warship and obliterate whatever insolent beings dared challenge him. On the other hand, curiosity gnawed at him. How had these humans, these supposedly primitive creatures, managed to penetrate the defenses of the most powerful empire in the galaxy? And why hadn't they attacked outright? As if answering his unspoken question, the main display screen flickered to life once more. This time, instead of cryptic text, a live transmission appeared. Standing before them was a woman dressed in a sleek navy blue uniform, her posture confident yet relaxed. Behind her, rows of human officers worked diligently at their stations, their movements efficient and purposeful. I am Commander Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Fleet, she began, her voice steady and clear. We mean you no harm, but we also will not tolerate aggression. You entered our territory uninvited, and your actions suggest hostility. We ask only that you leave peacefully and respect our borders. Zrin stared at the image, momentarily speechless. Humans weren't supposed to look like this: composed, intelligent, capable. Everything he'd been taught about them suggested they were little more than animals clawing their way toward civilization. Yet here stood a leader who spoke with authority, flanked by a crew that exuded discipline and unity. This cannot be, muttered Kale, voicing what everyone else was thinking. How can such primitives achieve so much? Before Zrin could respond, Elena continued. If you attempt to interfere with us again, know this. We have the means to defend ourselves. Consider this a warning, a gesture of goodwill even. Choose wisely. With that, the transmission ended, leaving the Valerith crew staring at a blank screen once more. The silence that followed was heavy with disbelief and unease. "What do we do now?" asked one of the junior officers hesitantly. Zrin didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned to gaze out the viewport, where the vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before him. For the first time in his long career, he felt uncertain not just about the immediate situation, but about everything. He thought he knew. These humans were unlike any species the Valerith had encountered before. They were clever, resourceful, and bold, and perhaps most unsettling of all, they seemed to understand something the Valerith did not. Strength wasn't always measured in weapons or technology. Sometimes it came from heart, resilience, and the willingness to stand together when faced with the unknown. "We retreat," Zrin said finally, his voice low but resolute. "For now." His decision sent ripples through the crew, but no one dared argue. As the Zalkor limped away from the encounter, its systems slowly coming back online, Zrin couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Humanity had made its presence known, and there was no telling what they might do next. Far away, aboard the Eclipse Dawn, Elena allowed herself a small sigh of relief. Phase 1 of their plan had succeeded, but as she gazed out at the stars, she knew the real challenge lay ahead. The Valerith wouldn't stay silent forever, and when they returned, humanity would need to be ready. In the depths of space, two vastly different civilizations had taken their first steps toward understanding each other or clashing irreparably. Only time would tell which path fate would choose. The retreat of the Zalkor marked a temporary victory for humanity, but it wasn't long before the implications of their encounter began to ripple across both civilizations. For Captain Zrin and his crew, returning to Valerith-controlled space felt less like triumph and more like failure. The once unshakable confidence that defined the Valerith had been cracked, if not shattered entirely. As they docked at a nearby outpost, a sprawling orbital station bristling with weaponry and technology, Zrin couldn't escape the weight of what had happened. "Commander, we've never faced anything like this," Lieutenant Kale admitted during a debriefing session. In the outpost's war room, his usually steady demeanor was replaced by palpable unease. "Their technology, it's advanced, yes, but there's something else, something we can't measure." Zrin nodded slowly, his elongated fingers tracing the edge of the table as he processed Kale's words. "You're right. It's not just their machines, it's how they use them. Their tactics are unpredictable. They didn't strike out blindly. They acted with precision, restraint even." "Why?" Around the table, other officers exchanged uneasy glances. The idea that another species could outthink the Valerith was almost unthinkable. Yet here they were, forced to confront the uncomfortable truth. Humanity wasn't just surviving, they were thriving. And worse still, they seemed unafraid. Meanwhile, aboard the Eclipse Dawn, Commander Elena Vasquez and her team were preparing for what they knew would be inevitable. While their initial success had given humanity breathing room, Elena understood all too well that the Valerith wouldn't stay quiet forever. Retreating was one thing. Accepting defeat was quite another. "We bought ourselves some time," Elena said during a strategy meeting with her senior staff. "But don't mistake this for victory. The Valerith will regroup, analyze our tactics, and come back stronger. We need to stay ahead of them." Marcus Halle leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "What's our next move? Reinforce the borders? Deploy more ships?" Elena shook her head. "No, if we spread ourselves too thin, we'll leave gaps they can exploit. Instead, we focus on innovation. Humanity has always excelled when pushed to adapt. Let's double down on research and development. Our engineers have already proven they can think outside the box. Now we push further." Her words ignited a spark among her crew. Back on Earth, teams of scientists worked tirelessly on new technologies inspired by the recent encounter. One project, codenamed Aegis, aimed to create adaptive shielding capable of countering any weapon the Valerith might throw at them. Another initiative focused on enhancing communication systems, allowing human fleets to coordinate seamlessly over vast distances, but it wasn't just about technology. Elena recognized that humanity's greatest strength lay in its unity, a quality she believed the Valerith lacked. To drive this point home, she ordered a series of broadcasts to be sent throughout human colonies, rallying people behind a shared cause. To the men, women, and children of Earth and beyond, she began in one such message recorded aboard the Eclipse Dawn. Today we stand united, not just as individuals, but as a species. The challenges ahead may seem daunting, but remember this: we've faced adversity before. We've risen above every obstacle because we refuse to give up. Together we will protect our future and ensure that humanity's voice is heard across the stars. The message resonated deeply with those who heard it. Across colonies scattered light years apart, humans rallied together, volunteering resources, skills, and manpower to support the fleet. Engineers worked around the clock, soldiers trained harder than ever, and civilians found ways to contribute, whether through manufacturing supplies or spreading morale-boosting stories. Back in Valerith-controlled space, however, tension simmered. News of the encounter with humanity spread quickly, igniting debates among the ruling council. Some argued for immediate retaliation, while others suggested caution, urging the Empire to study humanity more closely before acting. "It's clear now that these humans are unlike any species we've encountered," said Counselor Tanara, a respected elder known for her wisdom. "Their actions demonstrate intelligence, creativity, and resilience. Perhaps instead of attacking blindly, we should seek to understand them better." Captain Zrin listened intently, his mind racing. He had initially dismissed humanity as insignificant, but now he saw them differently, as worthy adversaries, perhaps even equals. Still, pride tempered his curiosity. How could the mighty Valerith lower themselves to negotiate with beings they had once considered beneath them? As days turned into weeks, both sides prepared for the inevitable confrontation. The Valerith deployed reconnaissance drones to gather more data on human settlements, hoping to uncover weaknesses they could exploit. Meanwhile, humanity fortified its defenses, building alliances between colonies and ensuring every ship in the fleet was equipped with cutting-edge technology. One day, while reviewing intel reports, Marcus Halle noticed something unusual. A small group of alien probes had entered human-controlled space, moving cautiously but deliberately toward a remote colony. "Commander," he called out, urgency in his voice. "We've got company." Elena strode over to the display, her expression hardening as she studied the information. "This isn't random exploration. These probes are looking for something specific. What do you want to do?" Marcus asked. For a moment, Elena hesitated. Engaging the probes directly could escalate tensions prematurely, but ignoring them risked giving the Valerith valuable intelligence. Then an idea struck her, one that combined boldness with subtlety. "We let them see what we want them to." "See," she said finally. "Deploy decoys near the colony. Make it look like we're vulnerable, but keep our main forces hidden and ready to strike if needed." It was a risky plan, but it played to humanity's strengths, ingenuity, and adaptability. As the decoys were set up, Elena couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. This wasn't just about defending humanity, it was about proving that their way of life, their values of cooperation, resilience, and determination could hold its own against even the most powerful empires. When the Valerith analyzed the data from their probes, they found exactly what Elena wanted them to find: signs of weakness. But beneath the surface, humanity stood poised, ready to spring their trap. In the vast expanse of space, two civilizations continued to circle each other, each step bringing them closer to understanding or conflict. For now, humanity held the upper hand, but the true test of their strength was yet to come. The Valerith council chamber was alive with tension, the air thick with arguments and whispered doubts. The Empire's leaders sat in a semicircle of illuminated platforms, their elongated forms casting long shadows against the metallic walls. At the center stood Captain Zrin, his presence commanding but tinged with unease. He had been summoned to explain the events surrounding humanity and to propose a course of action. "We underestimated them," Zrin admitted, his voice steady despite the weight of his admission. Their technology is unconventional, yes, but it's their tactics that truly set them apart. They think differently, adapt quickly, and they are not afraid to challenge us. Counselor Tanara leaned forward, her luminous eyes narrowing. You speak as if these humans are equals. Are you suggesting we treat them with respect? Zrin hesitated, knowing his words could either sway the council or doom him. I am suggesting caution. These humans have proven themselves resourceful and resilient. Attacking blindly will only provoke further resistance. If we wish to secure our dominance, we must first understand them. The room erupted into murmurs. Some council members scoffed at the idea of treating humanity as anything more than pests to be exterminated. Others, however, were intrigued by Zrin's perspective. It was rare for a Valerith commander to advocate restraint, especially after such a humiliating encounter. As the debate raged on, far away in human-controlled space, Commander Elena Vasquez faced challenges of her own. The decoy operation had worked flawlessly, at least on the surface. Intelligence reports confirmed that the Valerith believed the remote colony to be vulnerable, but Elena knew this reprieve wouldn't last long. Humanity needed more than clever tricks. They needed a breakthrough. In a dimly lit laboratory aboard the Eclipse Dawn, Dr. Priya Nair, one of Earth's leading scientists, worked tirelessly alongside her team. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces as she analyzed data from the recent encounters with the Valerith. She paused when something caught her eye, a pattern hidden within the alien energy signatures. Commander, Priya said, summoning Elena to the lab, we've discovered something significant. The Valerith ships emit a unique frequency during their scans. It's subtle, almost undetectable, but it leaves traces like fingerprints. Elena frowned, leaning closer to examine the readings. What does it mean? It means we can track them, Priya replied, excitement creeping into her voice. If we refine our sensors to detect these frequencies, we'll know exactly where their ships are and what they're doing, even when they try to remain invisible. Elena's eyes gleamed with determination. This was the tactical advantage they'd been searching for. For months, humanity had relied on guesswork and improvisation. Now, they had a way to level the playing field, but implementing the new sensor upgrades would take time, and time was a luxury they didn't have. Reports began flooding in from other colonies. Mysterious power fluctuations, disrupted communications, and unexplained disappearances of supply convoys. It seemed the Valerith were testing humanity's defenses, probing for weaknesses. One night, as Elena reviewed the latest intel, Marcus Halle approached her with a grim expression. There's something else, Commander, he said quietly. We intercepted a transmission from the Valerith. They're planning an attack not on the decoy colony, but on New Horizon. New Horizon was one of humanity's most vital outposts, a hub of research and trade located near the edge of contested space. Losing it would cripple morale and cut off critical supply lines. Elena clenched her fists, her mind racing through options. We can't let them take New Horizon, she said firmly. But defending it directly risks exposing our forces. We need to outmaneuver them. Over the next few days, Elena devised a bold plan. Using the upgraded sensors, they tracked the movements of the Valerith fleet en route to New Horizon. Instead of confronting them head-on, Elena ordered a small strike force to ambush the enemy ships at a narrow asteroid belt along their path. The goal wasn't annihilation, it was disruption. The battle that followed was chaotic but decisive. Human fighters darted between asteroids, launching precision strikes on the larger Valerith vessels. The aliens, caught off guard by the sudden assault, struggled to adapt to the unpredictable tactics. Though outnumbered, the humans fought with ferocity and coordination, forcing the Valerith to retreat temporarily back in the council chamber. News of the ambush reached Zrin and the others. For the first time, cracks began to form in the Valerith's collective confidence. Counselor Tanara turned to Zrin, her tone contemplative. These humans, they fight not just with weapons, but with heart. They protect each other, even at great cost. Tell me, Captain, how do we defeat such resolve? Zrin didn't answer immediately. His thoughts drifted back to the transmission from Commander Vasquez, her calm yet resolute demeanor etched in his memory. There was something about her, a quiet strength, that unsettled him. He realized then that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or strategies. It was their unity, their ability to stand together no matter the odds. We may not be able to defeat them as we have others, Zrin admitted finally, but perhaps we don't need to. His words silenced the chamber. For centuries, the Velirith had operated under the assumption that dominance was achieved through conquest. Now, faced with a species that defied every expectation, Zrin began to question whether coexistence might be possible or even preferable. Meanwhile, aboard the Eclipse Dawn, Elena received word of the successful ambush. Relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. She knew the Velirith wouldn't give up easily. Still, there was a glimmer of hope. Humanity had proven once again that they could adapt, innovate, and endure. As she gazed out at the stars, Elena felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity's values, compassion, resilience, and unity were worth protecting. And perhaps in time those values could inspire change. Even in the hearts of their adversaries, the turning point had come. Both sides now saw the truth. Humanity was not a foe to be underestimated, nor a species to be ignored. What remained to be seen was whether this newfound understanding would lead to peace or escalate into something far greater. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath as tensions between humanity and the Velirith reached a boiling point. The ambush at the asteroid belt had dealt the aliens a significant blow, but it was clear that they were not retreating. They were regrouping. Intelligence reports indicated that the Velirith were amassing an unprecedented fleet near the edge of human-controlled space. It wasn't just a show of force. It was preparation for war. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Eclipse Dawn, her expression grim yet resolute. The holographic display before her showed the projected paths of the Velirith ships converging on multiple fronts. Their strategy was clear: divide and conquer. By targeting several key colonies simultaneously, they aimed to stretch humanity's defenses thin, forcing them into untenable positions. "We can't defend everything," Marcus Halle said, his voice low as he studied the map alongside Elena. "If we spread ourselves too thin, we'll lose ground faster than we can recover." Elena nodded, her mind racing through scenarios. "Then we make them focus on one target. We draw their attention to a single location, somewhere they'll commit all their resources." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "And where do you suggest we stage this grand distraction?" Elena turned to face him, her eyes sharp with determination. "Earth." The room fell silent. Earth, the cradle of humanity, the heart of their civilization, was both a symbol and a stronghold. Attacking it directly would be catastrophic, but using it as bait carried immense risks. Yet Elena knew it might be the only way to consolidate humanity's forces and strike back effectively. "It's risky," she admitted, addressing her senior staff gathered around the table. "But if we fortify Earth and position our fleets strategically, we can turn their aggression against them. Let them believe they've found our weakness. When they come in full force, we hit them harder than ever before." Her words sparked a mix of awe and apprehension among the crew. Lieutenant Priya Nair spoke up first. "We'll need every available ship, Commander. Every soldier, every engineer. If this fails—" "I know," Elena interrupted softly, her tone unwavering. "But failure isn't an option. Humanity has survived worse. This is our chance to show the Velirith and the galaxy that we won't back down." As preparations began across human colonies, the sense of unity grew stronger. Volunteers poured in from every corner of inhabited space, eager to defend their homeworld. Engineers worked tirelessly to reinforce Earth's orbital defenses, while pilots trained relentlessly for what promised to be the largest battle humanity had ever faced. Morale was high, fueled by stories of past victories and the unshakable belief that together they could overcome anything. Meanwhile, aboard the Velirith flagship Zalkor, Captain Zrin received confirmation of the human activity around Earth. His initial instinct was skepticism. Why would humanity concentrate so much effort on a single planet? Logic dictated that spreading their forces would be more prudent. But then again, humans had repeatedly defied logic. Perhaps this was another example of their unpredictable nature. Or perhaps it was exactly what it appeared to be: desperation. Earth is their origin world. Counselor Tanara reminded him during a private briefing. Attacking it will cut deeper than any military loss. It may break their spirit entirely. Zrin frowned, his thoughts conflicted. He understood the tactical advantage of striking Earth, but something about the plan left him uneasy. These humans had already proven themselves resourceful and resilient. Was it possible they were luring the Velirith into a trap? They're clever, Zrin murmured, almost to himself. Too clever. We must proceed with caution. Tinara tilted her head, intrigued. You sound almost hesitant, Captain. Do you doubt our ability to prevail? No, Zrin replied firmly. I doubt their willingness to surrender. They've shown no fear thus far. Why start now? Despite his reservations, orders were issued and the Velirith fleet mobilized. Hundreds of sleek warships moved like shadows through the void, their destination set firmly on Earth. As they approached, the scale of human resistance became apparent. Orbital platforms bristling with weaponry encircled the blue-green planet. Supported by dozens of warships forming a protective barrier, when the first wave of Velirith vessels entered firing range, the skies ignited with light. Explosions lit up the darkness as beams of energy clashed, each side unleashing their full might. For hours, the battle raged without clear dominance. The Velirith pressed forward relentlessly, their superior numbers threatening to overwhelm the defenders. Yet humanity refused to yield. Pilots executed daring maneuvers, weaving through enemy fire with precision honed by months of training. Engineers aboard damaged ships worked miracles, keeping critical systems online despite overwhelming odds. And throughout it all, messages of encouragement echoed across communication channels, reminding everyone why they fought not just for survival, but for hope, freedom, and the future. In the heat of the battle, Elena led a counterattack that shifted the tide. Aboard the Eclipse Dawn, she directed her fleet to exploit a gap in the Velirith formation, splitting their forces and creating chaos. Her voice carried calm authority over the comms. Hold the line, push forward. Inspired by her leadership, the human forces surged ahead, their coordinated efforts turning the tide. The Velirith, caught off guard by the ferocity of the counterattack, began to falter. Ships retreated, regrouped, and advanced again, only to meet renewed resistance. From his command chair on the Zalkor, Zrin watched the unfolding scene with growing unease. Humanity's resolve was unlike anything he'd ever witnessed. Even as their ships were destroyed and their fighters fell, they kept coming, driven by a collective will that defied explanation. They're not fighting for territory or resources, Zrin muttered, realization dawning. They're fighting for each other. Counselor Tanara, who had joined him on the bridge, nodded slowly. Perhaps, Captain, this war was never about conquest. Perhaps it's about understanding. As the battle continued to escalate, both sides found themselves at a crossroads. Humanity had shown its strength, resilience, and unity, but the cost was mounting. Would the Velirith finally see the truth, or would pride push them toward destruction? The stakes had never been higher, and the outcome hung precariously in the balance. The battle around Earth had become a maelstrom of chaos and destruction. Beams of energy crisscrossed the void, lighting up the darkness like fireworks in a cosmic storm. Ships on both sides burned brightly before fading into silence, their crews lost to the endless expanse of space. Yet, amidst the carnage, humanity's spirit remained unbroken. Every sacrifice, every act of bravery, fueled the determination to protect not just Earth but everything it represented. Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the helm of the Eclipse Dawn, her hands gripping the edges of the control panel as she watched the tactical display update in real time. The human fleet had managed to repel several waves of Velirith attacks, but the enemy was relentless. Reinforcements continued to pour in, and despite their ingenuity, humanity's resources were dwindling. Shields are down to 20%. shouted Lieutenant Marcus Halle from his station. His voice was strained, but there was no trace of panic, only resolve. Elena nodded sharply, her mind racing through options. Divert auxiliary power to the shields. We can't afford another breach. As orders were relayed across the ship, Dr. Priya Nair approached Elena with urgent news. Her holographic tablet displayed complex calculations that glowed faintly against the dim red emergency lights of the bridge. "Commander," Priya said, her tone urgent yet controlled, "we've identified a vulnerability in the Valerith flagship, the Zalcor. Their main reactor is exposed during certain maneuvers. If we can disable it—" Elena's eyes narrowed. "That could cripple their entire fleet, but getting close enough would be suicide." Priya hesitated for a moment before responding. "Not necessarily. We've modified one of our smaller vessels, the Spearpoint, with experimental MP technology. It's fast, agile, and capable of delivering a concentrated pulse directly to the reactor core. But it'll require someone willing to fly straight into the heart of their formation." Elena didn't hesitate. She turned to Marcus. "Prepare the Spearpoint. I'm taking this mission personally." Marcus's face darkened. "Commander, you can't—" "I have to," Elena interrupted, her voice firm but tinged with emotion. "This isn't just about strategy anymore, it's about showing them what we're made of. Trust me, Marcus, humanity needs this win." Before he could argue further, Elena strode toward the airlock, flanked by a small team of volunteers who refused to let her go alone. As she boarded the Spearpoint, she took one last look at the eclipsed dawn, its hull scarred but still standing strong. Then, with a deep breath, she activated the engines and launched into the fray. The Spearpoint darted through the battlefield like a needle threading through fabric, narrowly avoiding blasts from Valerith warships. Its speed and agility made it difficult to target, but the closer it got to the Zalcor, the tighter the enemy formations became. Alarms blared inside the cockpit as warning systems flashed red, signaling imminent danger. On the bridge of the Zalcor, Captain Zrin watched the tiny vessel weave through his fleet with growing unease. Something about its trajectory felt deliberate. When his sensors flagged unusual energy readings emanating from the craft, realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. "They're targeting the reactor," Zrin barked, turning to his crew. "Scramble interceptors. Destroy that ship." But it was too late. With unshakable focus, Elena guided the Spearpoint into position, ignoring the barrage of fire around her. Her fingers danced over the controls as she initiated the EMP sequence. For a brief moment, time seemed to slow. She thought of Earth below, of the billions of lives depending on her success. And then she pressed the final button. A blinding pulse of electromagnetic energy erupted from the Spearpoint, engulfing the Zalcor in a cascade of sparks and static. The massive alien warship shuddered violently, its systems failing one by one. On the bridge, Zrin staggered as lights flickered and consoles went dark. The once mighty flagship was now adrift, its crew scrambling to regain control. The ripple effects spread quickly. Without the Zalcor coordinating their movements, the Valerith fleet faltered. Ships began to retreat, their formations crumbling under the renewed assault from the human forces. Cheers erupted across the human fleet as they seized the advantage, driving the aliens back step by step, back aboard the eclipsed dawn. Marcus watched the turn of events with a mixture of relief and pride. He knew Elena had risked everything and won. Moments later, a transmission came through from the Spearpoint. Elena's voice crackled over the comms, steady and triumphant. "The Zalcor is neutralized. Their fleet is breaking apart. We did it." Cheers erupted on the bridge, but Elena's expression remained somber. This victory wasn't just about defeating the Valerith. It was about proving something greater, that humanity's strength lay not in weapons or technology, but in unity and courage. As the remaining Valerith ships fled beyond sensor range, Zrin sat in stunned silence on the damaged bridge of the Zalcor. Around him, his crew worked frantically to restore basic functions, but the damage was extensive. For the first time in centuries, the Valerith faced the undeniable truth. Humanity was not a species to be conquered. It was a force to be reckoned with. Counselor Tanara joined him, her luminous eyes reflecting a mix of awe and regret. They've shown us something profound, Captain. Strength doesn't always come from dominance. Sometimes it comes from standing together even when all seems lost. Zrin nodded slowly, his pride tempered by newfound respect. Perhaps. It's time we reconsider our approach. Perhaps coexistence is possible after all. Far away, aboard the eclipsed Dawn, Elena gazed out at the battered but victorious human fleet. The cost of the battle weighed heavily on her heart, but so did the knowledge that humanity had proven itself worthy of respect, not just from others, but from themselves. In the vastness of space, two civilizations stood at a crossroads. The Valerith had underestimated humanity, only to discover a strength far greater than they imagined. Now, the question remained, would this newfound understanding lead to peace or merely mark the beginning of a new chapter in their shared history? For now, the galaxy watched and waited. The aftermath of the battle lingered in the silence of space, where drifting debris served as a somber reminder of the cost of conflict. The human fleet, battered but victorious, gathered around Earth's orbit, their ships illuminated by the pale glow of the planet below. Repairs were underway, but the mood aboard each vessel was one of quiet reflection. Humanity had won not just a tactical victory, but a moral one. They had proven that strength wasn't measured solely in firepower or technology. It resided in unity, resilience, and the willingness to stand together when faced with overwhelming odds. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the eclipsed Dawn, her arms crossed as she gazed out at the stars. The scars of war surrounded her, the charred hulls of destroyed ships. The faint trails of plasma burns etched into the void, but through it all, Earth remained untouched, its blue-green surface shimmering like a beacon of hope. She exhaled. Slowly, her mind replaying the events of the past days. So much had been lost, yet so much had been gained. "Commander," Marcus Halle said softly, approaching her from behind. "The crews are asking about next steps. What do you want to tell them?" Elena turned to face him, her expression thoughtful. "We rebuild, we heal, and we prepare for whatever comes next. But more importantly, we remember why we fought for each other, for our future." Her words resonated deeply with those who heard them. Across the fleet, messages of gratitude and solidarity spread among the crew members. Stories of heroism emerged, of engineers working tirelessly to keep ships operational, of pilots sacrificing themselves to protect others, of ordinary people rising to extraordinary heights. These stories became legends, reminders that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its machines, but in its heart. Meanwhile, aboard the damaged Zalcor, Captain Zrin and his crew worked to restore order. The flagship limped back toward Valerith-controlled space, its systems barely functional. For Zrin, the journey was both physical and emotional. He had spent centuries believing in the supremacy of his species, only to encounter beings who challenged every assumption he held dear. Humanity had shown him something profound, a glimpse of a different kind of power, one rooted in compassion and cooperation rather than domination. When the Zalcor finally docked at a Valerith outpost, Zrin requested an audience with the ruling council. As he entered the chamber, his presence carried none of the arrogance that once defined him. Instead, there was humility, a recognition of lessons learned. "Counselors," Zrin began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion, "I have returned. Not with news of conquest, but with a truth we can no longer ignore. The humans. They are unlike any species we have encountered. Their strength is not in their weapons or their numbers, but in their unity. They fight not for territory, but for each other. To destroy them would be to extinguish something rare and valuable." The council listened intently, their expressions ranging from skepticism to intrigue. Counselor Tanara spoke first. "What do you propose, Captain? Shall we continue this war until neither side remains?" "No," Zrin replied firmly. "We must seek another path. Perhaps coexistence is possible. Perhaps we can learn from them as they may learn from us." His words sparked debate, but over time the tide began to shift. The Velirith Empire, long accustomed to dominance, found itself grappling with questions it had never before considered. Could peace truly be stronger than conquest? Could understanding bridge the gap between two vastly different civilizations? Back on Earth, humanity began the process of recovery. Colonies rebuilt their infrastructure, scientists developed new technologies inspired by the encounter, and leaders across the globe worked to ensure that the lessons of the war would never be forgotten. In a historic address broadcast to every corner of inhabited space, Commander Elena Vasquez delivered a message that echoed far beyond human borders. To the people of Earth and beyond, she began, standing before a podium adorned with the insignia of the United Earth Fleet. Today marks the beginning of a new era. We have faced adversity and emerged stronger not because we sought to dominate, but because we chose to stand together. Let this moment remind us that our greatest victories are not won through force, but through unity and understanding. Her speech reached even the farthest reaches of the galaxy, including the ears of the Velirith. When the transmission ended, Counselor Tanara turned to Zrin with a faint smile. Perhaps there is hope for us yet. In the weeks that followed, tentative communications began between humanity and the Velirith. Diplomats exchanged messages, scientists shared knowledge, and explorers ventured cautiously into shared territories. It was not an easy road. Centuries of ingrained beliefs could not be undone overnight, but progress was made. Step by step, one evening, as Elena stood once again on the observation deck of the Eclipse Dawn, she received an unexpected transmission. On the screen appeared Captain Zrin, his elongated features softened by what seemed almost like respect. "Commander Vasquez," he said, his tone formal but sincere, "your people have shown us a strength we did not expect. Though our paths have been fraught with conflict, perhaps they need not remain so. I offer this message as a gesture of goodwill, a desire to move forward, not as enemies but as equals." Elena nodded slowly, her expression calm but resolute. "Captain Zrin, your words carry weight. If coexistence is possible, then let it begin here. Together we can shape a future worth fighting for, not against each other, but alongside." As the transmission ended, Elena allowed herself a small smile. The road ahead would be uncertain, filled with challenges and compromises. But for the first time there was hope, not just for humanity, but for the galaxy itself. Far above Earth, the stars twinkled brightly against the endless expanse of space. Among them, a new chapter unfolded, one defined not by division but by connection. Humanity had carved its place among the stars, not through conquest but through courage, ingenuity, and heart. And somewhere deep in the cosmos, the Velirith watched, listening to the echoes of a species that refused to be silenced.